بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآل الطيبين الطاهرين. Alhamdulillah, after a long time, about 9 months, I am now back to UK for a few days, but I have to go back quickly. So there is a retreat of yes. So there is a retreat of sisters in Lantern of Light. I had promised I will do my best to be there if Allah permits. So Alhamdulillah, I am here with the sisters here in the retreat center, and inshallah go back on Tuesday, inshallah. So thanks for your du'as, which gives me ability to function. So there are different ways to continue this discussion. Maybe I can say what are the things that can be obstacles for a global governance or people who want to help the global governance. And then after talking about these obstacles, inshallah, we can talk about what can help. So one thing that is, I am not saying necessarily in an order, I'm not saying that the first is the most important, yeah? So these are different things. One is bias. Bias is very, not only destructive, but also very restrictive. Any group who suffer from bias, they cannot function globally. Even if it is religious bias, ta'assub. In some lectures I have talked about ta'assub and how dangerous it is. You can have love, you can have passion for your nation, for your culture, for your people, even for your own faith, for your own community, but should not be biased in the sense that you don't see value in others, or you prioritize people or things that belong to you somehow over others and similars, even if they have better qualities. So if someone is a Shia and someone is not Shia, but I see the person who is not Shia has a better quality, I should be able to acknowledge that. I don't mean to, for example, always give priority. It depends on what is the issue, what is the position, what is the task. But I should be able to see and acknowledge that someone is better than this brother of mine from my faith, or sister of mine from my faith, or from my ethnicity, or from my nationality. Ta'assub is that you don't see good in others, and you see things which are not real as good things in your people. This is wrong. It can be ethnicity, it can be color, it can be language, it can be faith, it can be group. For example, we are in KLC. We should have love for KLC and KLC members. We should support each other, but we should not be biased, so that if other people are doing good work, we say, no, only KLC, or we are the best people. No. There are people who do good work. There are people who are better than us. We are just humble servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if we can help others, we are happy to help others. We don't say, no, we only help ourselves because this is the most important. Whatever is more pleasing to Allah. If you feel Allah wants you to help others, then go and help others. If you think Allah wants you to help this, help this. So you should be open. So we need to get rid of bias, and this is very, very difficult, because normally bias is mixed with sacred things or important things or things that you have become used to. So to do, separation needs surgery. It's very difficult, very painful sometimes. And you need to be with people who are not biased, so that maybe you can see their example and get rid of bias. And comes very close to bias or under bias, tribalism. You may say, no, we are not living in the age of tribalism. There is no tribe, for example, or at least we are not part of the tribe. Although even today there are, many people who live as tribes. But tribalism is not just for people who are in tribe. Tribalism is a kind of bias when it comes to organized communities, that the reason for being together is because of certain roots or certain origins, because of blood relation or because of geographical, relation. They have the idea of tribalism. For a person in the tribe, it's very difficult to think independently. And even many times people who belong to a tribe, they don't dare thinking by themselves, because the head of the tribe, make the decision. We also need to get rid of attachment to the forms. I'm not saying get rid of the forms, because we need forms. But we should not be attached to the forms, to the castes. For example, when it comes to mourning for Imam Hussein alayhi salam, in some lectures I have explained, there is a core for mourning and there is a form. We should keep the core of the mourning, which is private and public expression of deep sorrow for a great loss. This deep sorrow can be expressed through different forms. Maybe there is a form that I am used to it, because in my place, in my country, or my city, or my village, for generations, this is the way we have been doing Azadari. Okay, that's great. Any form that has been used for a long time now has a priority. If a community of faithful people have used the form for a long time, okay, has a priority. But this priority doesn't mean that it has sanction. It means that we should consider it with more favor, but we should not endorse it regardless. Maybe now we realize that form was not actually very good, or maybe was mixed with some bad practices or bad ideas, or maybe it was functioning but today it's not functioning. Maybe when we were alone was okay, but now that we are mixed with others and watched by others, maybe it's not working. Or maybe there are other forms that we can use today. So we need to be not dismissing these forms quickly, but at the same time we need to be open to change or adoption of new forms. If you want to be rigid and strict with everything in your religious life, then you cannot become universal, because cultural things have great chance of being local. And anyone who is familiar with diversity of the cultures, they know that sometimes something from one culture doesn't make any sense to someone from another culture, or sometimes even can make actually negative impact on them. A very famous example in the books on ethical relativism is that in the time of Iranian king Dariush, the Iranian state was very big, up to part of Africa and Europe, and then Asia, up to India, etc., were part of Iran. So he was informed that there are people in his state that when their relatives die, they eat them. They eat the body of the dead people. And there are also people that burn their dead relatives. So what was very common was to bury, but he came across these two extremes, burning and eating. So he asked them to be brought to his court. And he asked them, for example, the people who were burning, what should we give you so that instead of burning, you eat them? They said, it's impossible. How can we eat the body of our relatives? How can I eat my father? This is, disgusting. This is, not thinkable. And he asked the same question from the opposite, who were eating. Said, how much we should give you, for example, that you burn them? Said, how can we burn them? We eat them so that they become part of us and they remain in us. But the people who were burning, they said, we don't want their body to be spoiled, etc., or purified, etc. So it shows that sometimes there is very radical difference between customs. Although some people want to say that this shows that ethics is relative, but we say no. Indeed, both parties wanted to be respectful to their relatives. But how to show respect depends on your culture, depends on your ideology, your worldview, etc. So when you are dealing with humanity from north to the south, from east to the west, with lots of cultures and lots of subcultures, different religions, without religion, ideas, philosophies, then you have to be flexible enough to let some of the forms go or change or replace or be adapted. And if you want to insist on everything, there is no way to become universally accepted. This doesn't mean to compromise about the principles, of course. This doesn't mean to compromise about the core ideas. But unfortunately, people who are not flexible, people who are not very educated, normally they take everything, especially the superficial ones, they take them more serious because this is more easy for them to observe. They take it more serious even than the spirit. So even if the spirit is sacrificed and only the form is kept, they are happy. So you need to be flexible, but with the preservation of the principles. This is what I call principled flexibility. You shouldn't be flexible. You should be principled flexible. Like, I use the example of water. Water can easily be put in every container. And when it goes to the container, takes the form of the container. But water remains water. Neither its substance changes, nor its parts are damaged. But if you want to put a piece of wood or a stone into containers, if you see there is resistance, they don't go inside, you cut them, you break them, you smash them, and then put them in the container. So, if you want to be too rigid, you cannot go to any container. You cannot go to any culture and live there among them, be with them, have respectful relation with them. Either they say no at the beginning, or if they don't say no at the beginning and they see that you are rigid, they pressurize you so much that either you decide to go yourself back, or they try to change you. And then you have to sacrifice some of your principles to remain there. So, this is another issue that we have to be, freeing ourselves. Forms, customs are important, but not as important as our principles. And also, we need to be able to distinguish, even in our faith, between different levels of significance of things. So, for example, sometimes something is a doctrine, sometimes something is a virtue, and sometimes something is a fiqhi ruling, a practice. I cannot dismiss my aqidah. I cannot dismiss my virtues, but maybe certain fiqhi rulings can change. Of course, not by my understanding, but by understanding of our ulama and mujtahideen. The late Imam Khomeini very much was emphasizing on this idea, which of course created big discussion in Iran. What does he mean? And there were conferences of that during his life, and I think still the discussion continues. He had the idea that change of time and space can affect fiqhi rulings. Zaman wa makan. But what does it mean? For sure, he doesn't mean that, as soon as time changes, ahkam change, or as soon as the space changes, No, he didn't mean like that. But he also was saying that we have to accept that certain things can change the situation. Not because Islamic Sharia is changing, no. But Islamic Sharia has in itself a kind of methodology that helps a well qualified faqih who is attentive to the requirements of time to be able to understand Islamic rulings in a dynamic way. Maybe something was haram and then becomes halal, or vice versa. Maybe you say حلال محمد حلال إلى يوم القيامة حرام محمد حرام إلى يوم القيامة. Of course, any ruling of Islamic Sharia, when it is kept in its own circumstances, is not going to change. But what if change of circumstances change the subject of the ruling? If the subject of the ruling changes, then the ruling of the new subject is different from the ruling of the previous subject. And again, if we go back to the previous condition, so the same ruling comes back. So this is not change in Sharia for people who have insight. This is just change of what is applicable. For example, he mentioned this example. Of course, fuqaha have different views about playing chess. But he said maybe playing chess was at certain time a way of gambling, and therefore it was haram. Of course, there are people who say playing chess is as such haram, even if it's not gambling. But suppose, because there are fuqaha who say playing chess is haram because it was gambling. If it changes, for example, maybe today no one is using chess as a way of gambling. It's no longer a way of gambling. Maybe it has become a sport. Then it's not haram. Islamic Sharia has not changed. This subject has changed. Or for example, maybe there was a time that blood had no value, which was halal. What could you do with blood? Drink it, eat it, it was haram. But now there are so many halal ways of using blood for making, medicines, helping, people, etc. So maybe it's no longer haram to sell blood because it has what we call in fiqh manfa'at halal mu'taddun bih. It has a considerable halal benefit. In the past was batil. It was akl mal bil batil. La ta'kulu amwalakum baynakum bil batil. But now it's not anymore like that. Not Islamic Sharia has changed. No, Islamic Sharia is the same. But the subject has changed because of the change of the time and technology and etc. Anyway, an area that also we have to be exercising is how to prioritize different aspects of faith. For sure, the main thing is our aqidah and our virtues. Even sometimes aqidah can be kept but not expressed. Sometimes we need to observe taqiyya. Some people find it difficult to observe taqiyya. They want to say everything everywhere. But certainly, at least up to long time in a global governance, you need to observe taqiyya because you don't want anyone to feel offended. Even if it is not really an offense, but some people are brought up in the way that they feel this is an offense. So we don't want them to feel offended. So we need also to equip ourselves with this kind of practice. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said, "At-taqiyyatu dini wa dinu abai." This is my faith and faith of my fathers. And I'm sure we are living in a time that we need actually more taqiyya, because in the past everything was very local and not many people were knowing what you are doing, what you are saying, and there was not orchestrated campaigns against the Shia. Now everything is watched, everything is circulated by the friends and enemies. Sometimes people themselves do it, sometimes enemies do it. And there are people who are trying to hunt the Shia. There is attack against the Shia. We are not like many other people. So we have to be very careful. These are some thoughts for today or tonight. I wanted to mention some of the things that can help. I mentioned some of the obstacles, so there are things that can help. Maybe inshallah another time we talk about those things. I have written here 5 things. Inshallah, if Allah helps, we continue. And please keep thinking, keep studying, discussing with each other, so that together, inshallah, we take this discussion, inshallah, further. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Thank you very much, Shaykhna.
My pleasure.
May Allah increase your tawfiq and